sandwiches, ice cream, coffee and snacks, and many other pleasing treats. Our foods are fresh and tasty, our drinks satisfying and refreshing. They're so good.
Welcome to Average Joe's Drive-In.
And now, on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 67 of Average Joe's Drive-In. This is a Reviewcast, and I am your host, TJ Washburn. We're 67 episodes into Average Joe's Drive-In. I'm kind of having a hard time believing that. But we're coming up on a year, and I'm trying to think of something special to do for the year anniversary episode, and I'm still working some things out, but I've got some ideas floating around, and we'll see what happens there. I have got some fun movies to review this week, and a bunch of VHS, so we're going to be cracking open the VHS vault. But before we get to the VHS vault, we're going to start it out with 1984's Conan the Destroyer.
In an age when only the strongest survived, and only the ruthless triumphed, only one name became a legend. Conan the Destroyer. In his first adventure, he fought alone.
It is written that a woman child must make a perilous journey. I want you to take her on that journey.
Now, he joins a wizard.
What are they going to do?
Have lunch.
A warrior.
There are 6 of them against her.
1, 2, 3.
A renegade.
I think you're right.
And a princess. Together, they are sent by a treacherous queen across the lands of hostile kingdoms to solve the mystery of an ancient race and seek the power of a phantom city.
You're afraid of magic.
When it comes from evil,
This will.
come anyway.
The Horn of Dagoth, destroyer of worlds.
The god will live again. Enough talk.
If they cannot seize the horn in time, the world will be plunged into eternal darkness. Grace Jones, Wilt Chamberlain, Mako, Sarah Douglas, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan the Destroyer. The all-new adventures of the most powerful legend of them all.
The film was directed by Richard Fleischer, as a 103-minute runtime, rated PG, stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Grace Jones, Olivia Diabo. I watched this one on DVD. Synopsis. In his second cinematic adventure, the mighty warrior Conan is tricked into working for the scheming Queen Taramis. Along with finding a mystical horn, Conan and his allies, which include the fierce fighter Zula and the wisecracking sorcerer Akiro, must protect the beautiful young princess Jenna. With deception and danger at every turn, Conan has to use all of his powers to defeat the evil foes that stand in his way. As some of you may, remember, I recently watched the original Conan. And normally I follow it up with Conan the Destroyer like back to back, but this time I didn't watch them that way. So I was having a hard time picking out what I wanted to watch and decided, what the hell, I'm going to throw it on. It's just, it's still within a close enough proximity. This isn't as good as the first film, but it does have some of its own charms. While the first one feels very much like an epic adventure film, this one is more of an action fantasy. While the first film feels like a grand theater experience, Conan the Destroyer feels more like a late cable night movie of the week. The thematic elements are a bit different, as well as the overall tone of the story. There are also more comedic moments in this than the previous film. Most of that due to Conan's clumsy thief sidekick. When compared to the first film, it also feels cheesy. Some of the effects and moments come across as a bit forced, and more often than not, the battle scenes in this feel rushed. I do enjoy the final battle, though. It's still one of my favorite parts of either film. Where I can throw Conan the Barbarian on pretty much whenever and enjoy it, I do have to be in the right mood for this one or view it as part of a back-to-back with the original. Despite the different vibe, I do enjoy it. I still wish we would have gotten a third Conan film with Arnold, because I think that would have been amazing, but I think I've said before on the show I don't see that happening. But if it does, that would be pretty cool. My rating for this is a 5.5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 5.9 out of 10. Up next, 2017's Baywatch.
I'm oceanic, mother. Welcome to Baywatch. Our team is the elite of the elite. We're the heart and soul of this very beach. Come on, Pete, make my pecs a little bigger. And don't cover up my front bump.
You got it. Huge dick.
Big dick.
We're staring into the abyss here. It's up to us to restore the Baywatch brand.
Hey, One Direction, you here for the qualifiers?
I'm Matt Brody. I don't have to try out. I've got 2 gold medals.
Hey!
Matt Brody.
Matt Brody, yes! We still don't give up. Training begins at 0600.
This has nothing to do with saving people. These are refrigerators.
This is Baywatch, you pussy!
What is it that you think we do here?
Prevent people from getting sunburned and occasionally stop them from drowning.
Ma'am, everything's okay! Stop it! I can't save you if you're being a dick! This is the guy you think is a good PR opportunity for us. Look, I get it. You're big, Sasquatch, but I'm fast. Shit, didn't touch you. You suck. Drugs, murder, dead body on our beach, and it all started once she took over.
Some people are up to no good.
We're gonna have to do what Baywatch does best. The truth is, one of you will probably die.
Yeah. What? No. Am I the only one that thinks this is clearly a job for the police?
Thank you, Blue-Eyed Demon. You got one job. Make sure swim-happy white people don't drown.
Why does she always look like she's running in slow-mo?
She's the reason I believe in God.
We gotta go undercover.
Yeah, I'm undercover.
Yeah, a little too undercover. I'm oceanic, mother.
Jason Bourne ain't got shit on me. Why are we in the morgue?
You gotta get some hard evidence.
Someone's coming.
What do we do now? Now we hide. Weird.
I'm laying on a dead old lady. Our drawers are empty. Why'd you pick that drawer?
Something just tripped me.
It's just a little dead man's fat. Necrotic liquid fat that we used up being a baby.
That's it. I'm out.
The film was directed by Seth Gordon, has a 116-minute runtime, it's rated R, stars Dwayne Johnson, Zac Efron, and Alexandra Daddario. I watched this on Amazon Prime. Synopsis. When a dangerous crime wave hits the beach, the legendary Mitch Buchanan leads his elite squad of lifeguards on a mission to prove you don't have to wear a badge to save the bay. Joined by a trio of hotshot recruits, including former Olympian Matt Brody, they ditch the surf and go deep undercover to take down a ruthless businesswoman whose devious plan threatens the future of the bay. I'll be honest, I had pretty much zero desire to see this movie. I enjoyed the show back in the day in a casual viewing sort of the way, mostly because of all the gorgeous ladies in scantily clad clothing. It wasn't for the story or the plot. I was having one of those days where I wanted a comedy but couldn't find anything that stuck struck my fancy or was just stuff I'd seen before. All the newer films were either too long or not the type of comedy I was in the mood for at the moment. I really needed something dumb, something I could just shut my brain off and throw on. That's when I noticed they had added this to Prime. So I said, what the hell, and threw it on. I was surprised I didn't absolutely hate this. While it isn't a great film by any means, it does have some redeeming laugh-out-loud moments. They aren't constant, but they're present enough to make you shrug your shoulders and roll with what's going on. If you like the TV show, you'd probably enjoy this because it is very similar. It's maybe not as drama-orientated, but in other ways, about on par. It's a forgettable, dumb, fun comedy that scratched the right itch for me when I needed it to. And sometimes that's all you really need. My rating on this was a 5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 5.6 out of 10. Up next, 2017's Desolation.
Wow. Your dad would have been so proud of us for making it up here in one piece.
It's so incredible out here. It's so peaceful. What the hell's that?
Hello?
Do you think there was someone out here last night?
Hey, it's that guy I saw.
Why didn't you tell us?
I don't know. Something wrong.
Jen? Jen!
Mom?
Jen's not in her tent, honey.
Jen! What are we gonna do?
We're gonna go get help.
You can't just leave her behind.
I need to get you out of these woods. We're gonna need to go off trail.
Dad said you should never go off trail. Mom? Mom!
Anybody help!
Oh, God. What do you want? Leave us alone! Do you hear me? Just leave us alone!
The film was directed by Sam Patton, has a 78-minute runtime, is rated TVMA, stars Toby Nichols, Jamie Page, and Alicia Osha. I watched this on Netflix. Synopsis. A mother takes her son and her best friend on a trip into the remote wilderness to scatter her husband's ashes. They must confront their fears when a lone hiker begins following them. After a particularly long week at work, I was looking for something short to watch. Scrolling through Netflix, I came across Desolation. I'd never heard of it, but it fit the criteria of what I wanted, so I popped it on. This is a decent film. There's not a whole lot that's memorable about it, but it's not terrible by any means. There's a good chemistry between the two lead actresses, and the actor who plays the son holds his own. There are a few moments of decent tension throughout, but nothing that really made me jump or put me on edge. Depending on who the viewing audience is, though, I think this film could be rather effective in that area. I like the fact it didn't follow all the standard tropes you might expect something like this to fall into. That was a pleasant surprise for me. The movie moves along at a good pace, and the short runtime is actually to its benefit. I think any longer, and there would have been too many hurry up and get fucking moving moments. It seems this was done on a lower budget, and there are times when that's obvious. But it doesn't affect the story, so I can give it a pass when it comes to those moments. I will warn you, if you're a gore hound and looking for a lot of gore, this film has next to none. If you're looking for everything to be telegraphed and laid out for you, you may not enjoy it. There's a lot left up to the viewers to figure out and piece together, but it's a horror thriller, and personally, I don't need everything explained. I can just go with it, and I know that's not the case for everyone. So, be warned, if you're that type of viewer, you also might want to skip it. My rating is a 5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 4.6 out of 10. So, I'm going to head down and crack open the VHS vault and, where we talk about some of the classic films that may be forgotten about, or, films you've never heard of. And there's a lot of dust down here. Jeez, I keep meaning to come down and dust the vault out, but it's just not happening. Now if I can just remember the damn combination. I think I've got it. Hold on. Give me 1 second. No. Here it is.
Welcome to the VHS Vault. This is a portion of the show where I blow out the dust from classic and forgotten films from the VHS days. Films you may have forgotten about, never heard of, or just haven't seen in a while.
The first movie we're going to review in the VHS Vault is 1981's Excalibur.
The wizard's ancient spell.
Into the eyes of the dragon and the despair!
And the lust of a lord.
I must have her. One night with her.
Give birth to an empire.
Behold, the sword of power, Excalibur.
The future has taken root in the present. It is done.
One man, one king!
Orion Pictures presents John Boorman's Excalibur.
Knights of the Round Table, we shall always come together in a circle to hear and tell of deeds good and brave. And I will marry.
Don't you know me, Merlin? Because I'm a creature like you.
Their magic is Merlin.
Are you just a dream?
To some.
A nightmare to others.
Their king is Arthur.
You are my husband.
I must be king first.
Their power is Excalibur.
I swear eternal faith to Arthur, king.
Sir Lancelot, you will be my champion.
Which is that? Greatest quality of knighthood.
Truth.
Where hides evil, then?
Where you never expected.
I protest my innocence!
Were I not king, I would make you pay with your life!
A world of wizards, kings, warriors, queens, swords, sorcery, and desire. Forged of splendor and magic, where future meets past, flesh meets steel, and the only fear is the pain of love. Excalibur, sword of power, sword of kings.
The film was directed by John Boorman, has a 140-minute runtime, it's rated R, stars Nigel Terry, Helen Mirren, and Nicholas Clay. Synopsis. The magical sword of Excalibur starts off in the hands of British Lord Uther Pendragon, and then, years later, finds its way to his bastard son Arthur. The knave, destined to become king, aided by the sorcerer Merlin, Arthur fulfills his fate by bringing together the Knights of the Round Table at Camelot and unifying the country. However, this flawed monarch faces greater tests ahead in pursuit of love, the Holy Grail in his nation's survival. I think I was vaguely aware that this movie existed, but it's not one I've ever sought out or knew anything about. I am aware of the story of King Arthur and Excalibur, but it's not something I'm well versed in. I know random details, but not all the ins and outs. Truthfully, I don't think I've ever heard anyone even talk about this film. So I was more or less going in blind, and sometimes that's a good thing because I had zero expectations. For me, this is a tale of two films wrapped into one. I would say the first 45 minutes to an hour of the film borders on being terrible and confusing. The acting's so over the top, it's almost comical, and you're being randomly led from plot point to plot point. In all honesty, I could see it being MST3K fan. I had to force myself not to shut it off. But there were some good things that kept me hanging in there. The effects looked good. It was very well shot, and I kept thinking to myself, this looks like it had a budget and the cast is loaded. I figured there had to be some sort of redeeming value and payoff somewhere. Plus, I've certainly seen much worse over the years, so I kept going. I'm glad I did, because when this film turns, it becomes the epic tale you thought it could be. You get sucked into what's going on, the acting changes in tone and isn't so overzealous. It takes a few bizarre turns, but those only make it more interesting. Comparing it to something a little more modern day, it seems almost Game of Thrones-esque. Before I knew it, the film was done and the credits were rolling. I was surprised by that, especially after the first minute, which had me checking, to see how far in I was, and sighing how much longer the film had to go. This is sort of the fantasy version of Blade Runner when it comes to pacing and what might be expected by the synopsis on the back of the movie case. You're not really getting that grandiose Willow, Lord of the Rings fantasy. You're getting a much more reality-based fantasy, like a history story with added fantasy elements. I hope that properly purveys what I'm trying to get across. I can't really think of another way to accurately describe it other than that. The closest film I could compare it to would be the film Lady Hawk. If you've ever watched that, I think you'll get what I'm talking about. If not, a great film that you should track down and check out. It was nice to be surprised by how good this ended up being, especially after the lackluster start. I'm glad I watched it and will be throwing it on again at some point. But, like most films with longer runtimes, it's going to be a while before I dig in again. But it will happen. My rating is a 7 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 7.4 out of 10. Next up, 1999's House on Haunted Hill.
This Halloween, 6 strangers have been invited to a party. If they can stay up till dawn, they'll win $1 million each. The only catch is that they'll have to live through the night.
Let the games begin.
It's in there. Hey, I think I got something.
Open the door!
Stephen, are you doing this?
No.
The film was directed by William Malone, has a 93-minute runtime, it's rated R, stars Jeffrey Rush, Famke Janssen, and Taye Diggs. Synopsis. A millionaire with theatrical tendencies, Stephen Price, invites a number of people to stay in a vast, creepy building that used to be an insane asylum. Stephen, accompanied by his bitter wife, Evelyn, offers $1 million to anyone who can stay the whole night without leaving out of fear. When Stephen and Evelyn become trapped with their guest, they quickly realize that the house really is haunted, and the spirits dwelling within are very angry. I first saw this a few years after I got my first DVD player, which was around 2001, 2002. So this would have been maybe 2003, 2004, I think. But I hadn't seen it since. I picked it up several months ago on VHS for cheap, and I added it to my collection. I figured I'd get around to watching it eventually, and if nothing else, I would throw it on during my October Horror-thon. I couldn't really remember how I felt about it, though I did have a vague recollection of not outright hating it, but not liking it all that much. So, I was interested to see where I was going to come out this time around, being so many years later. As far as remakes go, I thought this was a pretty solid update. It kept the spirit of the original, but at the same time did its own thing. The acting worked well, and I was actually surprised by the amount of gore it had, because I didn't remember it being that gory when I first watched it. While it wasn't too gratuitous, there was enough there to sate the gore hound in me. Overall, it was a good blend of jump scare moments, gore, and a fairly solid story. One of the few things I didn't like about it was the constant flashing imagery. At times, it made it hard to concentrate on what was going on and just was flat out distracting. I adore the original. It's in my top 3 favorite Vincent Price films. The fact I didn't feel like this was tarnishing the name of the original caught me a bit off guard. Looking back, I wonder if maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it as much the first time I saw it. That was also around the time period when I was sick and tired of remake after remake coming out. I think I may have gone in with a bit of a preconceived hatred before I even viewed it. I'm glad I threw it on and watched it. I really enjoyed it, way more than I was expecting. It's far from perfect, but it's a solid film I'll watch again. With that being said, I still don't think it's as good as the original. There was a lasting fun creepiness about the original that still holds up, which I don't think this one quite delivers on the same level. My rating for this was a 7 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 5.6 out of 10. Up next, 1984's The Evil That Men Do.
When the system of justice doesn't work, Bronson does. When the courts can't do what they must, Bronson will. Bronson fighting all the evil that men do.
Torture as a political instrument has become a subtle and sophisticated specialty.
When the most savage murderer cannot be caught or stopped, there is only one man to turn to.
You don't seem like the kind of man that would commission somebody's death.
I'm not, but the doctor stands outside the moral laws of civilized people.
His kidneys and spleen were crushed. His teeth were completely broken.
When evil becomes above the law, the only law left belongs to Bronson.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to rattle his cage.
In the execution of justice, there is no executioner like him.
Towards him!
name of revenge, there is just one name. Bronson, fighting all the evil that men do.
The film was directed by J. Lee Thompson, has a 90-minute runtime, rated R, stars Charles Bronson, Teresa Saldana, and Joseph Meyer. Synopsis. The story of a professional killer who comes out of retirement to target a sadistic British doctor who's employed as a torturer by an oppressive South American government. The hitman is determined to make the malevolent doctor pay for the murder of a personal friend. I had honestly never heard of this one. I like Charles Bronson, but there's a pile of his films I've never seen. He's one of those actors that while I never followed his career all that closely. It's more of one of those deals where when one of his films was on TV, I'd watch it, but I never really sought them out. So, when I came across this in a pile of VHS tapes, I grabbed it to check it out. Mainly because it's also the title of an Iron Maiden song that I love. When I saw it was a Charles Bronson film, I was like, what the hell, I might as well buy it and give it a watch. This is pretty much standard late 70s, early 80s Charles Bronson film. The story's interesting enough, but nothing too outside the box. It's rather violent in an unapologetic sort of way, and even gory at times. You get Charles Bronson being Charles Bronson, and that charming, sort of lovable asshole way he had a way of portraying. This borders on feeling like a cop drama to a degree, even though it isn't. The action's more or less reserved for the last third of the film, but it has its moments scattered throughout. The story itself's interesting enough to keep you engaged, during the down parts. If you're a fan of Bronson, then you'd probably dig this one. I'm not sure I'd grab it on a higher format unless it was a really good deal. It's one of those films that a VHS copy's good enough for me. If you don't already have it and can snag it at a cheap price on DVD or Blu-ray, I'd say go for it. My rating is a 6 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is 6 out of 10. And last but not least, a film that I have wanted to see for a really long time, and that is 1973's Westworld.
MGM presents Westworld.
Your attention, please. We will soon be landing at Westworld, the ultimate resort.
We have you on grid 5, over.
It consists of 3 worlds of the past.
Locking in now.
Worlds where you can live out your every fantasy. There's Roman world, the lusty, decadent delights of imperial Pompeii.
Notify ground crews.
Medieval world, chivalry and combat in 13th century Europe. And Westworld, lawless violence on the American frontier of 1880.
Bacon, cinnamon toast.
Each resort is maintained by reliable computer technology and peopled by lifelike robot men and women.
Let's stand by for resort activation. Ready on 6, on 5, on 4, on 3, on 2. Activate now.
Our robots are programmed to provide you with an unforgettable vacation.
Dinner at 7, breakfast at 6:30. Get lunch on your own. Don't look like much here, but we have everything.
You mean to tell me he's a robot?
What'll it be?
Vodka martini on the rocks with a twist of lemon. Very dry, please.
Just give him whiskey. He's new in town.
Many elements of the Delos resort are potentially dangerous. That's part of the appeal.
Go on.
You say something, boy.
Kill him.
Your move.
Our technology is designed to provide all this in complete safety. In Westworld, frustrations find release. Desire ends in satisfaction.
Let me handle it.
And all in a controlled environment.
That's not supposed to happen.
We know you'll enjoy your stay in Westworld.
Hold it.
The ultimate resort.
Let me do it this time.
Where nothing can possibly go wrong.
I'm shot.
Go wrong.
Raw.
go wrong.
Oh my God.
Shut down. Shut down immediately.
Westworld from MGM, starring Yul Brynner, Richard Benjamin, and James Brolin. Westworld, the ultimate resort. Boy, do we have a vacation for you, for you, for you, for you.
The film was directed by Michael Crichton, has an 88-minute runtime, rated PG, stars Yul Brynner, Richard Benjamin, and James Brolin. Synopsis. Westworld is a futuristic theme park where paying guests can pretend to be gunslingers in an artificial Wild West populated by androids. After paying a sizable entrance fee, Blaine and Martin are determined to unwind by hitting the saloons and shooting off their guns. But when the system goes haywire and Blaine is killed in a duel with a robotic gunslinger, Martin's escapist fantasy suddenly takes on a grim reality. I'll be honest, I wasn't familiar with this title at all until the Westworld TV show came on a couple years ago. And I've been curious about watching it ever since, but didn't want to plop down the cash for a DVD or Blu-ray sight unseen. I happened to be out hunting for VHS when I came across a copy, so I snagged it, came home, and immediately threw it on. I have to say I'm pretty damn impressed. The movie was certainly ahead of its time. I don't remember ever seeing anything from that time period, even close to what this was. I would be shocked if James Cameron wasn't heavily influenced by this film when he made Terminator. Something I'll have to do a little research on, but honestly, I think it's a brilliant concept, which is why it probably translated so well into the TV show. With how television is done these days, that medium seems more fitting for something like this. There's so many possibilities and directions you can take the story. The acting is solid and the story's interesting. The score fits well and the effects are decent. While it's very enjoyable, it does feel a tad bit dated and hokey at times, but again, for the most part, it works. You get to see some of the other areas of the park outside of just Westworld, although that is the primary focus. I'm glad I was able to finally give this one a view. I'll certainly be throwing it on again. I was also informed there was a sequel to this called Future World. I now want to track that one down and check it out as well. It's always fun when you get a chance to see an older film you didn't know about and it exceeds your expectations. Those moments feel special. Like maybe, just maybe, you're part of a club who have some hidden knowledge of these lost gems and get to spread the word to others. While that may not truly be the case, it's a great feeling. My rating is a 7.5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 7 out of 10. So, I gotta get out of here. The dust is killing my allergies. I gotta shut the door and get back upstairs.
That wraps up this edition of the VHS Vault. Hopefully, it took you on a trip down memory lane or gave you insight on a film you've never seen before. For now, it's time to close and secure the vault. So that's going to wrap up this episode of Average Joe's Drive-In. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank my sponsors, the Maine Cannababes. Go to www.mainecannababes.com to find out more information about them and what they're up to. Also, shout out to my buddies Tom and Dan in the Potato League podcast. Be sure to check the Potato League podcast out. Also, be sure to check out another podcast that I absolutely love called The Movie Freaks with my good friends Eric Marner and Eugene Weaver, who are frequent guests on the show. Make sure you check their podcast out. If you haven't, you can find it on all the same outlets that Average Joe's Drive-In is on for both of those podcasts. And I've got some great guests coming up. Most of my guests are booked all the way up until end of July, early August. There's a few spots and a few things I'm working up for some special episodes.
But there's a lot in the pipeline, and I am very excited about everything coming up. I'm just letting everybody know, and I think I mentioned it before, but I can't remember for sure. The Reviewcast may be a little more sporadic than they usually are. My regular job is very busy right now. They're also going to be starting to shoot the film version of my short story Chum. So I'm going to be, there to see some of that going on and participate in some stuff there. And I have a few events that I'm doing that I will be selling books at. So I got a lot on my plate right now. So the Reviewcast may be a little sporadic, but eventually I will get back on a regular Reviewcast schedule. So anyway, you have been listening to Average Joe's Drive-In. I am your host, TJ Washburn. And, the hell with it. I'm not going to leave you with... Nah, I'm just kidding. Remember, kids, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and I will see you sexy animals on the flip side.
Thanks for listening to Average Joe's Drive-In. If you'd like to talk movies or contact the show, add our social media pages. You can add us on Facebook at Average Joe's Drive-In Podcast, on Twitter at TWJ Author, on Instagram at Thomas Washburn Jr. You can also hit up www.thomaswashburnjr.com for more information about the show and related links. If you'd like to support the show, you can buy TJ's books on Amazon. Just type in Thomas Washburn Jr. in the search. Books are available in Kindle and paperback formats. If you have Kindle Unlimited or Prime, you can read the books for free and money will be earned by the pages read. It doesn't cost you anything and it supports the show. Until next time, you've been listening to Average Joe's Drive-In.
It's intermission. Rise and stretch time. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for hot popcorn? Your favorite soft drinks are sparkling cold. The juicy Frank sizzling hot. There's delicious coffee, freshly brewed, and all kinds of ice cream and candy to tempt you. Showtime will be announced loud and clear to get you back to your car in time. So stretch your legs. Come to the snack bar now.